Hi there, this is Tony from pianotone.ca, and this is my review on the Yamaha PSR E373 portable arranger keyboard. Let's check it out. So if you're familiar with my website and my YouTube channel, you probably know that I usually review entry to kind of mid-level digital pianos. So why am I reviewing an arranger keyboard? Well, I've been looking into portable options for piano players to have something to easily take to a friend's house or the park or to a low-key band practice or even for some casual performances like busking. So the E373 is definitely an option for that. So this review will be focusing on how well I think the PSR E373 will work as a portable option for a piano player who is used to playing a weighted key piano or digital piano. So while I will touch on some of the many arranger features, it's definitely not my area of expertise, and there are tons of videos out there on those features. Now, just in case you don't know what an arranger keyboard is, an arranger keyboard typically will have a large number of voices and will not only have a large number of drum beats or rhythms in different, all sorts of different genres, but will also have accompaniment instruments that will play along with you based on chords that you play in your left hand. So to summarize the main features of the PSR E373, and there's quite a few, there's 61 full-size touch-sensitive organ-style keys with 4 levels of touch sensitivity. There's 48 notes of polyphony, 5 watts of speaker power. There's a really nice backlit display with context-sensitive settings. There's 622 voices. Highlights in those are definitely the upgraded main piano voice, which is sampled from Yamaha's CFX Grand. It's a fantastic piano sample. There's also 13 featured voices where Yamaha has pre-added different DSP effects to them to improve how they sound. There's also 11 super articulation Lite Voices, which are non-keyboard instruments like guitars, flutes, horns, that type of thing, where you can trigger a modification to the voice with the articulation button. There's 205 rhythm styles with intros, endings, fills, and 2 variations for each. There's 170 style and voice presets that's called the music database. This is basically presets for famous songs. So they've chosen the correct tempo, an appropriate style, and a voice for each one of these songs. You basically just have to decipher the code name of how it's listed in the manual to figure out which song it is, but it's usually pretty obvious. There's 38 DSP effects, there's 12 types of reverb, 5 types of chorus, 6 types of EQ presets, there's 26 types of auto harmony. You can layer the keyboard with 2 different voices, or you can split the keyboard in half with 2 different voices, and thankfully you can adjust the relative volume between those 2 in both of those. You can transpose up or down 12 steps, and there's also an octave shift. There's 9 registration memory slots where you can memorize your current settings for voice and style and that type of thing. There's an arpeggiator with 150 different types of arpeggiation. So if you like kind of techno music, then you can use this feature where you play whatever, and then the keyboard will automatically arpeggiate for you. There's a one-touch setting, which basically you choose a style and it will recommend an appropriate voice for you. There's a recorder built in. You can record up to 5 songs with 2 tracks of each. To be honest, this is really only useful, in my opinion, for capturing a quick idea. For serious recording, you're going to want to connect the keyboard to some type of recording software on a tablet or a PC like GarageBand. There is a lesson feature, and to be honest, nowadays, in my opinion, you're better off downloading a piano training app like Flowkey or looking into an online course like Piano in 21 Days or the Piano Man approach. But if you want to use the lesson feature, there is a songbook that you can download from Yamaha's site that has instructions on the 150 or so different built-in songs, and that works in conjunction with the lesson feature on the keyboard. For connectivity, there's an audio in port that you can use to stream external audio. There's a USB port that is not only transmits MIDI data like most keyboards do, but it also transmits audio in both directions, and that's a massive feature that I will talk about later. There's a 1/4-inch headphone input, and there's a 1/4-inch pedal input that you can use for sustain, the arpeggiator, or to trigger articulation. And if you're not using it for sustain, there is a panel sustain that you can set up to still get some sustain while you're using the pedal for something else. And the keyboard can run on AA batteries. Okay, so the user interface on the Yamaha PSR E373 really is pretty awesome. This whole section, we've got the power, volume, the metronome, and you can actually set your tempo here. Then these two buttons are for doing recordings, and then this is kind of the rhythm and style control here. So you got your start, stop, fill, intros, endings, that type of thing. These three buttons all have to do with the lesson feature, which I'm not really going to go into. Then on this side, this is how you select a voice. This is how you can go in and play existing songs that are built into the keyboard. I also don't really go there at all. And then this is how you choose your styles. These buttons, basically it's a nice handy keypad to be able to select voices or styles by number, so it just speeds it up a little bit. They're also used as your registration keys, which I'll show you in a minute. The music database, so basically those presets for famous songs, that's how you get into there. And then this is how you set dual and split voices, how you turn the harmony or arpeggiating features on or off. And then the function is how you get into the function menu. Registration memory, I'm going to be talking about that in a second. Articulation, that's how you trigger those super articulation light voice modifications. And then DSP, that's how you can add all sorts of different effects to your voices. And then the portable grand is really a nice handy button to just return you back to voice number 1. So you can see on the display, by default, we've got the voice displayed, so 001. So if I go into voice, that's going to be this this display, and then I can either put in a number. For example, if I want to put in 044, that's going to take me to a nylon guitar. You'll notice here too, it says super articulation light. That's how you know that this is one of the voices that will react to that articulation button. And I can also scroll through voices by going plus or minus. And one thing that's really handy on the Yamaha 373 is the fact that they've got a kind of a subset of the voices, kind of like the categories listed here. So if you want to go to electric piano voices, you can go to voice 8 and then start to scroll up and down with the buttons. So it is pretty quick to navigate. Same thing with the styles are listed over here. So if you're looking for country, you could go to 090 using the keypad and then scroll up and down until you find the one that you want. Then when you want to go back, you can go to portable grand again, and you're back at 001. Now also when I scroll through these, something else you can notice is when you see DSP lit up, that means that this voice, which is a honky-tonk piano, Yamaha has already added a DSP effect to it to improve the sound of the voice. Now when you see the exclamation point, remember I was talking about cool or those other funny names that they have for those voices where they've done some modifications to. This is one of them. So this is the cool suitcase electric piano. So that's how you can tell what those are. Now if I go into I'm just going to reset this to portable grand, and then I'm going to go into the style menu. So now you're going to see that this whole screen is going to change because it's context sensitive. So now we're looking at the styles. I currently happen to be on Love Song. Same thing, you can enter a number for a style. Now I'm on British rock. Now if I'm going to use the style, I can set up, for example, sync start, and you'll see that that'll start to flash here because it's going to wait for me to start playing before it starts. I can also choose whether I want it to start on variation B or variation A, and I can also choose if I want an intro. So it's going to be an intro into version A. And then when I start playing, then it'll start going. So you do get visual indicators, and it'll also count measures. You can see it's at -08. That means that's an 8-beat intro. So that way you know when the main part of the style is going to come in. Okay, the registration memory. So the way that works is, let's say I want to go to load whatever voice I want. Let's say the stage electric piano, and I want to split it. You'll see the split will come on, and it's going to be bass by default, but I could edit that voice if I wanted to, and I could add some effects, etc. I could choose a style that I want. So let's see here. Let's go off of the default style. We'll go to happy 8-beat. And I want to memorize all of that. I'm going to hold down registration memory. The memory number, I'm going to put it in memory number 2. Overwrite, yes. So now if I go back to the portable grand and I choose a different style, 8-beat modern, And now if I hit registration memory, it's going to say load number, and I go load 2. I'm going to be back on stage electric piano with the splits, and I go back to my style, and I'm back on happy 8-beat. Okay, the keys. The keys on the Yamaha PSR E373 are 61 full-size organ-style synth action keys with 4 layers of touch sensitivity. They are thinner than a box-shaped style key that you'll find on an actual piano or most digital pianos, but they are full width. So while the keys are full width, they are not weighted and they're not semi-weighted, so they will feel nothing like the keys on a real or a weighted digital piano. The action on these keys I find to be extremely light. When I first started trying the keyboard on the default touch sensitivity setting, which was normal, I found I was having a lot of difficulty controlling my dynamics. I'm used to a fully weighted hammer action digital piano. So I switched the touch sensitivity to hard, and that definitely suited my playing style quite a bit better. Once I switched the touch sensitivity and spent some time getting used to the action, I was actually quite impressed with the level of dynamic control that I had. While the keys are very light, they have a very consistent and a very predictable dynamic to them. And since they are full-sized, someone used to a piano will be able to adapt to the spacing pretty quickly, but the synth action will be an adjustment that will take some getting used to. Okay, voices. There are a staggering 622 voices on the Yamaha PSR E373, including some very high quality and some very unique ones, especially at this price point. There's 241 panel voices, which are really the main voices and the better quality ones. The remaining voices are either drums or XG Lite voices, which are voices that have been brought forward from prior models that are using slightly older samples. They're by no means bad, and they're very nice to have, but they're not quite the same quality as the main panel voices. Now, that being said, there are some spectacular voices on this keyboard. The first one, and arguably one of the main highlights of buying this keyboard, is the new upgraded main piano voice. This voice is sampled from Yamaha's CFX Grand and is a very high quality sample that was actually the main piano voice on Yamaha's recently retired Tyros keyboards, which sold for thousands of dollars. In my opinion, this piano voice is spectacular for the price range, and I think it actually rivals the main piano voice on my Yamaha P125 piano, which sells for 3 times as much. My P125 uses a sample from the Yamaha CF Grand piano. In comparing this piano voice, for example, to the Casio Tone CTS 300, which I previously reviewed, there really is no comparison. Now, there are also 13 featured voices on the PSR E373. These are called Live, Sweet, or Cool. I'm not quite sure what that's all about, but these are really high quality samples. They're mostly keyboard instrument samples like electric pianos that have some really well thought out DSP effects that are pre-applied to them. Here's a quick video on a few of the voices. There's way too many for me to demonstrate all of them. And I'll also demonstrate the split and layering functionality. Now, in addition to the main piano and the featured voices, the PSR E373 also has 11 super articulation light voices that are really quite impressive. These are non-keyboard voices like flutes or guitars that are extremely realistic to begin with. The flute, for example, is really breathy and just sounds very real to me. But there's also a different sample that you can trigger with the articulation button. Now, you can also set the pedal to trigger articulation instead if you want to. With the flute, for example, you're going to get kind of a staccato type effect, and with guitars, you might get harmonics or slides or hammer-ons. Very, very, very cool. And since these voices are not piano voices, switching the pedal from sustain to articulation shouldn't really be a big issue. Here's a quick video showing some of these really cool voices. Now for effects, this keyboard has a ton of effects available for you. There's way too many to try and demo. Some of the bread and butter voices actually already have effects applied, and they're great out of the box. But just to recap what is available on the keyboard, there's 38 DSP effects, which is phenomenal, especially for something at this price range. There's 12 types of reverb, there's 5 types of chorus, there's 6 types of EQ, and there's 26 types of auto harmony. So once again, there's way too many for me to demo, but there's a ton of effects available, so you can really do a lot of customization to get your voices to sound the way that you want them to. Okay, so rhythms and accompaniment. The PSR E373 has 205 rhythms from a really wide variety of genres with optional sync start, intros, endings, fills, as well as optional accompaniment, which includes backing bass as well as a rhythm section. And a nice feature here is you can adjust the rhythm and accompaniment volume relative to the main voice that you're using. If you don't want the accompaniment, you can also just play along to the drum track and still take advantage of the variations, the optional intros and endings and insert fills, that type of thing. So even if you're not interested in the arranger features, having a wide selection of drum styles to play along with is never a bad thing. So here's a quick video showing the auto accompaniment, including using sync start, fills, and some of the style variations. For controlling the auto accompaniment, most arranger keyboards will have multiple chord modes for choosing what chords the accompaniment should be playing. The Yamaha PSR E373 actually has less choices than most arrangers do for this, with only 2 choices. Even the cheaper Casio Tone CTS 300 that I reviewed actually has 6 chord modes to choose from. The first choice on the PSR E373 is a very common one. It's called full chord, where you need to play the full chord that you want in your left hand, and the accompaniment will follow you along. There's also an interesting option on the Yamaha, especially for beginners, which Yamaha calls smart chord. In this mode, you first specify what key the song is in, and then you play chords in your left hand with a single finger, since the chord can deduce what chord should be played based on the key signature that you chose. So for example, if the song is in the key of C, and you play the A key, you're going to get automatically an A minor chord, since the A minor chord is the usual chord in the key signature of C. So this is an interesting option for a beginner. I do think if it was me, I would just play the full chords and not worry about it. But here's a quick video demonstrating how the smart chord feature works. So there are tons of useful rhythms available on this keyboard. I was able to find usable rhythms for straight and syncopated beats, as well as some shuffle rhythms and some useful 3/4 or 6/8 time signatures. I'm pretty much a rock, pop, blues kind of a player, so I didn't investigate too many of the other styles or ethnic beat options, but there are quite a few choices for those as well. So the music database. The Yamaha PSR E373 has what they call a music database, which is basically 170 presets for some famous or popular songs. So when you choose one of these, the keyboard is going to be set to the appropriate tempo, the appropriate style, and recommended voices are also going to be set for you. The songs are listed in the manual, most with coded names due to licensing, but they're usually pretty easy to figure out. Here's a quick example where I just loaded one of these music database songs and played along with the settings that it gave me. So the Yamaha PSR E373 has 9 registration banks where you can memorize all of your current choices for voices, layering, splits, effects, rhythm settings, etc. I already demonstrated these when I demonstrated the user interface. While it is nice that you have 9 banks available on a keyboard that has this many intricate settings and options, it would be really nice to have 30 or more registrations so that you could use the registration for each song in your repertoire. I did find one issue with how the registrations work though. When I play a 61-key keyboard, I like to octave shift everything down 1 octave, and you can't do that. It is a little bit of a deep dive into the menu, the function menu to do it, but it's not that big a deal. But as soon as you switch voices, then it goes back to normal again. So if I want to be down an octave all the time, I have to basically do that every time I switch a voice. So it would be really nice if the keyboard actually remembered the octave setting kind of the same way it does the touch sensitivity, which never changes once you set that, even if you turn it on and off. Or even if there was a dedicated button on the panel to quickly and easily shift octaves. The connectivity. For connectivity, there's a 1/4-inch port for a sustain pedal, a 1/4-inch headphone port that you could also use with a splitter cable to go to external speakers or an audio interface or a PA system or something. There's also a handy 1/8-inch audio in so that you can connect an external sound source like an iPad to play along with YouTube apps or something like that. A huge feature on the PSR E373 though is that it has an audio interface built into the USB to device port. This is the same as my Yamaha P125 digital piano has that, and it's a fantastic feature. I use it all the time. So on most keyboards, the USB to device port is used to transmit only MIDI data, which is the data of what you play, not the actual sound of your keyboard, to a PC or to an iPad, so that you can then work with that MIDI data in some recording software. And that would be using the sounds that are built into that software, not the sounds from your keyboard. But with the built-in audio interface, you can not only transmit MIDI data, but you can also transmit audio data, which is the sound of your keyboard, in both directions using this port. The benefits of this are pretty huge. It allows you to record audio without the need for an external audio interface device. With most keyboards to record audio, you have to use the line out or headphone ports to connect to this external audio interface device that you have to buy, which in turn then connects to the PC or the tablet running the recording software. With the PSR E373, you can record audio directly to your device, which is not only just easier, but also gives you a much better quality audio signal because it skips a round of processing, which is being done by that external interface. And you can also use this connection, because audio goes both directions, as another audio in to stream audio from your device or your piano so that you hear audio through your speakers and headphones as an alternative to using the audio in port. So the Yamaha Rec and Share app. The free Yamaha Rec and Share app takes advantage of this built-in audio interface on the Yamaha PSR E373 by making it super easy for you to make high-quality videos that you can easily upload to YouTube, social media, or whatever, and all with just one cable and a few clicks, because the app is really, really easy to use. So if you connect your phone or tablet to the PSR E373's USB port, you can then use the Rec and Share app to record a video of yourself playing, and the audio is going to be really high quality because of the built-in audio interface. Here's a quick video that I made using the Rec and Share app. features of the Yamaha PSR E373. Portability. One of the benefits of buying a keyboard without fully or semi-weighted keys is portability. The PSR E373 only weighs 10 pounds. Most digital pianos, like my P125, weigh 25 to 30 pounds. And since it only has 61 keys, it's also physically quite a bit smaller and easier to move around. You can get by with a smaller and lighter stand as well, which is also easier to move around. So this is a big positive for a pianist looking for a portable option. The PSR E373 also has a lot of the standard features, as you would expect, that you see in most keyboards nowadays, like a metronome and the ability to transpose, that type of thing. There is a lesson function. There's 150 songs built into the PSR E373 that have a corresponding songbook that you can download from Yamaha's website. The book and the lesson function on the keyboard work hand in hand to help you learn these songs. It's great that the keyboard has a lesson function included, but as I mentioned at the start of the review, nowadays I personally think you're much better off either downloading a piano training app like Flowkey, which I've got reviews on, or looking into an online piano course like Piano in 21 Days or the Piano Man approach to get up and running learning this great instrument. Now the speakers on the Yamaha PSR E373 are 5 watts, 2.5 per side, so they're definitely intended for practice or playing in a small room. And although they're small, they do actually project well, and they're very clear, good quality speakers. But if you want to use this keyboard to perform in any scenario other than possibly busking in a very intimate setting, you'll need external amplification of some sort. Here's a quick video of how the speakers sound just being picked up by the built-in mic on my iPhone. So the other choices. Keep in mind that since I'm reviewing the PSR E373 as a portable option for pianists, my other choices won't necessarily be other arranger keyboards, but other keyboards that are going to meet that portable piano option. So the Casio Tone CTS 300. I recently reviewed this keyboard. I'll link to that review below. It's also an arranger. It also has touch-sensitive keys, but other than the action being a tiny bit heavier and having a nice matte finish on the keys, which I like, and being crazy portable. It's only 8 pounds. It's smaller physically than the Yamaha, and it even has a carry handle. The Yamaha PSR E373 pretty much outshines it in every other area of comparison. The Yamaha has more and significantly better voices because the CTS 300 uses an older sound engine from Casio. The Yamaha has more and better rhythms and a much nicer user interface. That being said, the CTS 300 is about $70 US cheaper. The Yamaha PSR E273 is the cheaper model in the PSR lineup, and I would not recommend this keyboard. It doesn't have the high-end piano sample, and it does not have touch-sensitive keys. It doesn't even have a USB port, so you can't connect it to a device, which nowadays is, for me, pretty much a no-go. The Yamaha PSR NP12. I previously reviewed a piano-focused keyboard from Yamaha called the Yamaha PSR NP32. That keyboard has a 61 key version called the NP12. It has a synth action similar to the CTS 300. It only has 10 sounds, and the sounds on that one are a bit higher quality than the Casio, but still not anywhere near as good as the E373, in particular the main piano sound. And it does offer layering and a single track recording function. But the issue to me with the NP12 is the price. It's the same price as the PSR E373 with a lesser piano sample and significantly fewer features, like there's no rhythms built in, no built-in audio interface. So I would definitely recommend the E373 over the NP12. The Alesis Recital 61. This is an interesting option, especially if you're not needing arranger functionality or hundreds of sounds. I recently reviewed the 88 key version of the Alesis Recital, which is an entry-level digital piano that has semi-weighted keys. They're still not the same as playing a weighted keyboard, but they're going to be a lot closer than a synth action keyboard is. And while the 88 key recital is a fair bit more expensive than the 373, the 61 key version is about the same price. And the 61 key recital has 10 voices compared to the 88 key version, which only has 5, also adding a notably missing strings patch that the 88 key version doesn't have. It also runs on batteries. It has actual left and right line out ports, so you don't have to use the headphone jack to connect to external amplification. And it has 20-watt speakers compared to 5 on the Yamaha. So for busking or performing, you might be able to get away with just the onboard speakers now and then, although you'll still sound better out of an external amp. The sounds on the Elises are okay and totally usable, but they're nowhere near the quality of the Yamaha. So I think the big thing here is whether or not the key bed being semi-weighted is super important to you, because it's not going to be as big of an adjustment from going from a weighted key piano. The Casio Tone CTS1. This is a brand new, at the time of this review, keyboard from Casio that has a lot of potential for being a portable option for pianists. This is judging from reviews I've seen so far. Casio took a really interesting approach with this keyboard. It has no display, a very simple interface, no rhythms, and the newer sound chip from Casio, so it has really high quality sounds. And Casio also included some very well thought out effects that are pre-applied to these voices, as well as a lot of articulation samples that are triggered by how you play instead of pushing a button like they are on the Yamaha. And there's also some very unique voices on this keyboard that aren't on any other Casio, even the expensive ones. The keys are supposedly heavier than the CTS 300 with kind of a semi-weighted feel, so I really look forward to reviewing one of these. So the verdict on the Yamaha PSR E373. I really like this keyboard, and I can definitely recommend it as a solid choice if you're a pianist looking for a portable option. It has some fantastic sounds, including a spectacular main piano and some great electric piano and organ sounds, and tons of features like layering, splitting, tons of effects. It only weighs 10 pounds, and it has a built-in audio interface. And onboard rhythms are always handy to have available, even if you're not interested in using the arranger functions. And if you're looking for a great, inexpensive arranger keyboard, it's also absolutely a great option. So what about busking or performing? Technically, you can busk with a kazoo if you're entertaining and put on a good show, so in that regard, why not? That being said, you'll probably need some external amplification because these speakers are simply not going to be powerful enough, and you will face the challenge of only having 9 registrations for quick recall of your settings. That being said, if you're mostly playing piano and keyboard sounds and not using the arranger functions, 9 registrations could be plenty. And if you're considering this keyboard as a first instrument for a young one to test their potential interest in music before spending a bunch of money on something fancier, it would also be a great option. The only potential deal breaker with the PSR E373, in my opinion, is the non-weighted, really light synth action. As I mentioned, with the touch sensitivity set to hard, I was able to get used to and quite enjoy the action, but it is definitely an adjustment. And when you're looking for something portable, non-weighted keys means less weight. So that's a trade-off that your back will be thanking you for if you end up moving it around a lot. However, if the intention is to move into formal piano lessons, it is really important to remember that you should try to get something that has fully weighted keys, or you should be fully expecting to have to upgrade to something with fully weighted keys once that piano journey officially begins. The PSR E373 keys are full-sized, but synth action non-weighted keys are not going to be appropriate for somebody who's taking traditional piano lessons and are likely practicing on an acoustic piano. I have reviewed some really good entry-level weighted key options as well that aren't crazy expensive if you want to check those out, reviews on the Elises Recital Pro or the Anovus i88. So with all that in mind, I would definitely recommend the Yamaha PSR E373 if it fits in with your needs and your budget. If you would like to check out current prices for this keyboard or any of the other keyboards or pianos I've mentioned, please click my appropriate affiliate link below to check that out. I've also included a link to a good generic sustain pedal that has a polarity switch because the Yamaha doesn't come with a sustain pedal. So thanks so much, and happy piano playing. Take care.